I jump to the negative. I was talking to Tim Hayes at the end of his show about basically mind energy. What are we doing with our minds when we get these challenges? And I go down the tubes very fast. If it's a little animal getting killed by another animal or something, or or my son struggling, and I've spent so much time. Wake-up sheets are like mind energy plumbers. They haul you up from the pits over and over again. But I just go down there. So I don't know.
Well, one of the things that Michael did with me, I posted this on Facebook the other night when I was in such agony, and he's like, okay, instead of saying that it's pain, which it was tremendous pain, but he said, imagine it's just a sensation. He said, go to that sensation, take your breath to it. He said, what color is it? And what is it? What temperature is it? And all of that, and just kind of tickling my arm a little bit, and it eventually just calmed down. And we taught that to Aria last night. She hit her shin, and I said, okay. I said, do this. I said, because this is what Papa taught me to do for my shoulder, and it helped. Well, when I picked her up from ballet today, and she said, guess what? And I said, what? And she said, I hit my shin again in the same place. And she said, it hurt. And I said, what'd you do? And she goes, I did what Papa said. She says, I just closed my eyes and breathed. And she said, it was red, and I turned it blue. And she said, but it went red again. And she said, but then I just did it again. And she says, and it turned purple. So it was like, just teaching her to, instead of the trauma of it, to go in. And I said, that's an awesome superpower that you've got. And she goes, yeah, it is.
So, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell her to get on the radio show and teach the rest of us.
Did you hear that, Aria? She said you could get on the radio show and teach the rest of them how to use your power, your mind energy. Can you do that?
That's a great idea.
You could? Well, come here. She said she could do that.
All right. I'll talk to her.
So, come up here. This is Susan. And
Hi,
so
Aria.
She wants to know what to do when you've got these negative thoughts in your mind. How do you get them back to being positive? And I was telling her about your leg and your superpower of changing it. So what would you tell her?
I'm going to do it in a little bit.
Oh, you're not going to do it right now, but she's on the phone right now.
That's okay. She can do it later.
Right.
I got her message. Just tell her I understood what she did with her shin, turning it blue and then purple and when it went back to red. That's what my mind does. Tell her that. My mind goes back to the red, and I get all worked up again. But then the idea of going back and changing it again and breathing, that's a very good idea.
Just breathe.
Thank you, Aria.
She's awesome.
Probably the most important instruction you'll ever hear, young lady.
So Michael's joined us now. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome, Michael, and welcome to your foot.
Foot is celebrating. It's walking, which it hasn't done for 4 or 5 days. So recognizing that not moving around, I needed to. First day I got up and I got downstairs and back up again, and then the next day I went a little further, and the next day, and so I just spent the last 4 or 5 hours out in the garden. So, and it's been an interesting experience.
It isn't a broken
This is
bone.
an old foot thing. Say again?
Foot thing. I
can go back into my earliest childhood.
Yeah.
I can go back into my earliest childhood and playing ice hockey. I was always spraining my ankles. And I was always coming home with a nail in my foot. And generations of foot trauma. In any event, there have been some really, actually for me, some nice upsides to this. It's put me into a deeper state of getting quiet and paying attention. One of the nice things, I've had, memories of times when there was pain or trauma going on in my family system, on up into my own adult household and such. And the energy wasn't always nice. And one of the things, Jeannie's been going through some pretty heavy-duty trauma, and my feet have been too. But one of the things has been, there hasn't been a crossword. It's been gentle, respectful. We look at each other and laugh and say we're quite a pair hobbling around here. At least, between us we have 2 good arms and 2 good legs. But, so that's been kind of interesting, and kind of the sense that I've gotten of it. One, it's put me into a deeper state when I kind of go to a meditation, but the sense I've had of what my structure's doing with this has been that of some issues that over the years I've worked through but haven't physiologically done that. So it's almost like, okay, so my body's working out some karma. That's the sense I've had of some of the energy that's moving. And there hasn't been a whole lot of emotion attached to it, any of it. It's been purely physical at this point. Although I've had a couple, early morning is the time when I really usually do, early meaning 3 or 4 in the morning, where I usually am listening and doing a piece of inner work. And there have been some layers that actually aren't necessarily conscious at this point, but some layers of work that I've gone through in the last several days that have been meaningful, important, and not things at this moment that I particularly remember. It was in the moment of moving through that, things to do with my lungs. That was always my nemesis as well.
Yeah.
Almost died 3 or 4 times from it, so got to do some lung work in the process, and our garden's looking great.
Good. Michael, when you wake up in the middle of the night, I had a question. You were just saying when you wake up in the middle of the night, I do that too. Oftentimes, I find it hard to organize my thoughts. There's something missing in my, I don't know whether it's a matter of getting more awake in order to do the right kind of meditation. It's often quite scattered and doesn't feel very good either. Some anxiety might come in, or obsessing or ruminating, like I was telling Dr. Tim, a little bird was killed by my cat after a lot of pain. The bird wasn't killed right away, and it was a tiny woodpecker with all her beautiful markings are his, and his little comb was developing, and I just felt so sorry about the bird, so sorry that I didn't catch the activity.
Do you think you were really sorry about the bird? Remember again our definition of denial.
Yeah.
Do you think sorry was moving in you because of what happened to the bird? Or do you think sorry was moving you because there's sorry in you?
Well, I think both. I'm not ready to give up the first part. You trying to get me ready to say nothing outside of me, but that bird was in its own distress. Nothing outside of you will ever move anything in you that isn't already there, would be my offering. And that's another piece that I've gotten out of this last several days with both of us, is that I'm delighted with, again, the space that Jeanie and I have held with each other, and delighted that virtually everything my mind has been focusing on, even though, and some of this has been excruciating, and even in that, the focus has been, it's easy for me to appreciate. It's easy for me to, I guess that's the word, just appreciate, instead of, curse the darkness kind of thing. And so, I can remember many times in my life where I cursed the darkness. And it's actually something that I've been working on for some time, that automatic response. I had a father in particular who cursed a lot whenever he was upset. I think back to the early years of doing this work. It's like, why did I ever even learn those words? Why did those words ever come out of my father's mouth that I know them and that they're automatic in me? And I've spent many years asking Ruka, remove this. I don't want this response. And what I've found with this
new level of intensity has been, that's pretty much disappeared. It's pretty free. I'm not saying I'm over with it yet, but that was a nice piece for me. And so my offering would be, there are still, remember that we don't have emotions without thoughts. It just doesn't happen. And so if I have an emotion that I think is caused by a bird's suffering, then I have a thought about suffering that I could forgive and be free of, and look at, let's say that bird is on the teetering on the edge of life and death. I found it just after the cat just tore it up, and it's teetering on the edge of life and death. And the deciding factor for the life of that bird might be, can I truly, totally, completely embrace it in total love in its state right now? And that might be what saved that bird's life, or my own. But if I have thought disorders based in suffering and pain and loss and all the fear-based stuff, then I can't do that for that bird or for myself. And to me, to get to the point where I can, like, I've cleaned my own structure from everything based in hostility or fear. Doesn't mean I want everything to happen the way it happens. Doesn't mean I'd like it to be different and all of that. However, I don't have to inflict the mind energy of suffering on me because I'm suffering or something or someone outside of me is suffering. And the nicest gift I could give to myself in my suffering state would be to be able to drop every disintegrative energy based in suffering, suffering I've seen, suffering that my generations have seen, to forgive that, to remove that, and to be able to look at that tortured bird and simply engulf it in the presence of love might be the bird's lifesaver, or my own body's lifesaver. So maybe experiment with giving up the belief that something out there could go. Just try it and see what happens. Gee, what if I yielded up literally the capacity, that the passage comes to mind of Yeshua in the book of Thomas, which did not make it as one of the canonized books of the Gospels, but remember that we've talked about this several times. The disciples, the Pharisees are all over Yeshua, and the disciples are like, why don't you sock it to them, give them back some of their own medicine? And he simply says, I have none of that in my store. Like, I can't go there because I don't have that. Now, somebody might say, that's heartless. I don't think it's heartless at all. To me, that would be heartful. Gee, bird, torn to pieces. I'm going to embrace that bird in total conscious, active, present love and support its healing or its moving on from its body.
Well, that part of it,
to me, that's about
totally
as heartfelt as it can be. Okay?
Yeah,
Which
I
is the
get
part
that
that doesn't make sense?
The part before I got the bird. When I'm holding the bird, I'm just cradling it. I'm with it. I'm wishing it well, and it's not panic anymore. It's when I hear the screams and I know what's happening and I can't help.
And you have thoughts about it.
Yeah, I have thoughts about it. It's helplessness. It's vulnerability and everything like that. Something is hurting it, and there's nobody around to help it.
So, was there ever a time in your life where you could have said to yourself, I'm helpless, there's nothing I can do about it, and I'm being hurt by someone?
I know the situation you're talking about. That was not a thought I had at the time. At the time, I was not conscious in that way. I just accepted it. I thought I didn't even think. But in my non-thinking, this was the way things were supposed to be because this is the way they were. That seems rather enlightened to me. But I look back now and I think, why didn't I speak up? Why didn't I grab the riding crop? Why didn't I break it in half or hide it? Get rid of it. I put it back in the linen closet where it lived. Carefully put it back where it was supposed to be. What is that all about?
To be available again?
But that's, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't mean to talk about this. It's just that...
No, that's okay. I think it's a perfect topic.
Okay.
I think it's a perfect topic. It takes us right to the edge where we all live. You know, we can talk philosophy and all of that, which we do oftentimes, but on the edge of where we live, does it really work? And for me, this has been a new level of documentation of the fact that it works. And I've actually seen, without getting into the details of it, a couple of minor shifts in my structure that have improved in the last 5 days. Things that don't seem to be related to my feet, but I know energetically and medically are related to my feet. So I've seen a couple of functions that have improved from what they were a week ago. So I'm going, okay, so I can reliably understand that this is my body's way of throwing off something, of detoxing something, cleaning something out, and simply cooperating and being willing to be with it.
Yeah, separating out, taking action, being fast and decisive doesn't require upset.
Correct. And being the space of love definitely enhances it immeasurably rather than being the space of upset.
Yeah.
So to me, the part of the value of this is to recognize, you know, it's like, oh, this is inspiration. You know, I can remember a lot of time when I'd have said to much of what's coming out of my mouth, that's just bullshit. I can remember a time when I would have said that.
I like that
but
word.
But now,
no.
Say again?
I like the word bullshit. It's applicable sometimes, I think. But I'm not thinking about it for what you're saying right now.
Yep. So.
Sometimes a good swear word really helps, Michael. Don't lose them. Just use them carefully.
I didn't know that was a swear word. I thought that was just a fact. There's things called bulls out there, and they do their thing. I didn't know that was a swear word.
Whoa! What about the other?
But I guess you know, just like God said to Adam and Eve, like, who told you were naked? Somebody made something up, and all of a sudden it becomes a swear word or whatever, a thing.
Yeah. A thing. Okay. All right, we'll carry on, Dr. Michael. And may the foot get better
Jeanie,
and better, and Jeanie's arm.
Yeah. Jeanie actually sent me a little post that she'd found the other day, and to me it was just like really powerful. And I actually spent about an hour and a half writing about it, and I had it in a Facebook post that I was going to post, and I got distracted from it, and the post disappeared, so I'll have to go back and do it again. But because it's, to me, and what was clear to me when I read this as she sent it to me, was this is the sum and substance of the whole teaching of Yeshua. 15 lines, and the whole thing is there.
Wow.
And here's what it says. I saw a parenting advice that said, when an adult cries next to a child, the child won't say, get over it. They won't yell at you to be quiet. They won't punish you for being emotional. They won't say, good adults don't cry. Instead, they'll hug you, comfort you, or perhaps offer you their favorite toy. They will stay by your side without judgment, regardless of why you're crying. So the next time your child cries, remember what they'd do if they saw you cry.
That's gorgeous.
And, you know, like Western so-called Christianity has struggled and struggled in volumes and volumes and mega tomes about trying to arrive at that simple 15-line poem. Statement of fact.
Great.
That's the whole body of work right there. And anything that addresses, that plays, well, we have this dogmatic belief that you better do this, therefore if you don't, you're. Well, go back and read this and see if you can apply this to it. And I thought it was really powerful. So thank you, sweetie, for finding that and sending it. And when I get when I sit back down again, I've got a lot on my plate. But when I sit back down again and rewrite the interpretation of it, I'll send it to you.
Thanks. I love it.
Yes, and we're on for Wednesday, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm glad you are. Would you be willing to be on the video part too so people can see you?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Good.
That'd be easy.
Good.
I will do it. I will be there
Thank you.
with bells on. Well,
Thanks.
I probably won't put any bells on, but
That's okay.
I will be there.
All right.
Cool.
Well, if there's nobody else.
Well, anything else on your mind for now?
Yes, there is, and it's just about Charlie. I love how you use your generic name of Charlie. You changed it to Hortense or something else because I have a real Charlie, and you didn't want to insult him. That was weeks and months ago. Anyway, our Charlie
and once in a while,
yeah, go ahead.
Once in a while, I still make the mistake of putting Charlie in there, and I remember, oh, Susan, no, stop that.
That's okay. You can do it. You have my full permission. I understand. Charlie's a great name. He has had this problem with OCD, relationship OCD and anxiety, and he's had an amazing year at college, and he has come home saying that he's found Jesus. He's been saved, and Jesus is healing him. And I say, that's so fabulous.
That's sweet.
I love it. And then he talks to me, but he says the Bible says, and he'll spout something that, people shouldn't do this or that, and some of us do it. And they're wrong, and he's worried about people going to hell. And he's afraid his father's going to go to hell because his father hasn't taken Jesus hasn't been saved the way he has. And he's afraid his father is a sinner like him, and he's just going to go to hell. And I say, wait. And you've been very handy in my mind because basically I don't want to hurt the faith he has developed. But I don't want him to become a Pharisee either. So,
there's a perfect answer to that.
Yes. Okay.
And it came right out of Yeshua's mouth. So next time he goes into that, perhaps point out to him how condemnation and judgment are thought disorders that Yeshua would not engage in. And then tell him the story about the woman who was clearly sinner. She was a prostitute, and she was caught in the act. And they brought her to Yeshua. And Yeshua pointed out that everybody who was condemning her had committed the same quote-unquote sin. And when he pointed it out, they all left.
Yeah.
And when they left, he said to her, "Woman, where are your accusers?" And you could laugh it up with them a little bit about, I could imagine her saying how, wow, I don't know where they went, but I'm sure glad, thanks. That was pretty cool because they were going to kill me. And then his crowning line, he says, "Neither do I condemn thee." Unfortunately, there's a faction of so-called, and I definitively use the word so-called Christianity, that has this belief that he will do something that he absolutely, totally, completely, 1,000% refused to do 2,000 years ago and isn't coming back to do it. But they're sure that on Judgment Day he's going to do it because they do it. So you might point out to him that that would be one of the errors, one of the sins he might want to correct in his mind, and know that his job, as was Yeshua's job, if he's actually going to follow Yeshua, is if there's someone who is trapped in what he considers to be sin, his job is not to assess their sin or to tell them what's going to happen to them or threaten them with it. His job is to say, stand as a space of active love, as Yeshua would, and say, "And neither do I condemn thee."
That's good.
That would be my take. That would be my offering.
All right. Good, because we're
the mind can
talking a lot.
so easily slip out of the
Yeah.
presence of love into generational thought disorders, and they're attractive, you know. And so being vigilant, being on guard, and Yeshua said, you know, the gate's really narrow. Like there's a narrow gateway between letting this person know that they're off base and they need the presence of love to heal, and condemning them. And if you walk over that line, you just became the sinner you're condemning. Quote-unquote sin. Of course, for those who are listening who are maybe new to the show, we're recognizing and using the word sin as it was used in the original Aramaic 2,000 years ago, where the word sin has nothing to do with the great, evil, awful, satanic, horrific thing that the Greeks want to impose on us, but rather simply as an archery term that means off the mark. And that when you fired at the target and you missed the bullseye in the archery range, the scorekeeper simply yelled, sin, you're off the mark. And to become aware when we're off the mark and get back on the mark, and know that our job is to hold the mark for those who are off the mark. Our job isn't to force them to look at and change their position, but simply be the space.
Good. Thanks.
It's a big practice for our non-human minds to conceive of until we convert them to human minds again. It's a big practice. And I certainly, you know, millions of people have fallen into that same trap that he's been invited into by those who've assisted him in starting to open up to a new way of living. And it might be useful to also warn him, you know, you're sharing this with him, and there's a thing called playing John the Baptist. You might not want to turn around to the next preacher that, you know, maybe invited him into this space who's got somebody else they're condemning, and have him try to explain to the preacher, like, you know, hold your peace. Because if that preacher's condemning, he's got his own sin to deal with. And, you know, you'll notice that what happened with John the Baptist, when he pointed out someone else's error, they then dumped their power and their error on him. And, you know, maybe he might not want to do that. So he keeps himself clean within the community that he's in. It sounds like he's got a community that's really opening a space for him and supporting him, and that clarity that he's being healed is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Like, I'm excited.
Yeah. I am too. He seems so well, and we go for walks, and he's just so enthusiastic about things, and it's great to see.
Perhaps doing a walkthrough of what it would take to, with his judgments about Dad, what he sees Dad having done or not done, a walkthrough to a total embracing of Dad in love, and neither do I condemn thee, like, not in my job description.
That's wonderful.
Because that's a pounding point for a lot of those who are stuck in that whole judgment game. It's like, yeah, and it's your job to make sure that everybody else toes the mark. No, it's not your job. Yeah. Your job's just to make sure you toe the mark and hold the space. Your real job is to hold the space for others and recognize, neither do I condemn thee.
Well, it's really God's work to take care of his father. I mean, I did tell him that. I said, don't you think God is watching out for him and choosing the best way for him to find his way? Anyway, we've been it's very rich. I just love the time with the kid.
That's awesome. That's exciting. I'll hold the space that another young man comes into that fold, has that insight.
I didn't understand you.
Oh, I'm just affirming that I join you in holding the space that Jacob maybe is able to step into that new space that.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Jacob, we hear the news, but he's not treating us well, but he has found a job and a place to live, and he loves his job, and he's not asking us for money anymore, and he seems to be out in the world, but he's still very rude to us, the very people who are rooting for him the most.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at least
Well,
he's doing something.
and he's playing a power. Remember that he's, as you step into that space of neither do I condemn thee, which I know you work hard with him to do, but to recognize he's dealing with, from what you shared with me in the past, perhaps one of the most dramatic and brutal power person dynamics that any kid's ever dealt with.
Totally. I agree. Totally.
So I certainly join you in compassion for him and taking care of yourself in the midst of it. So I'm delighted that you were able to stand strong and not buy into his bullshit and hold the space for him.
Word.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think it's just powerful the work you've done to be able to do that, and it's awesome.
Thanks, Michael. Well, which foot is it? Just for the hell of it, which foot?
Actually, it's been both.
Has it? Oh, okay.
Yes. Started off with the left.
All right.
Shifted to the right. Left one's about 80% on the high side, and the right one's about maybe 40% on the high side. So.
Ooh.
And the thought comes, I don't know what kind of work is Jacob doing?
He is going door to door. He's riding a bus of peers, and a lot of them are on the autism spectrum, which he is only very mildly. Driving into different cities and getting out the vote, telling people they've got to vote and getting them registered.
Oh,
he
that's
loves
cool.
it. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
He's not on any side. He's just going out to get out the vote.
Okay. What an awesome service. He's learning about service. That's fabulous. The world needs that. The country needs that right now. Big time.
Know, and he says his acting training is perfect. He knows how to do that. He knows how to just put it on. He says, it's not really me, but I have a great time doing it. And, I have all sorts of energy for it and focus. And he's telling somebody who's telling me. He's not talking directly, as I told you. But he's doing that, and he's buying his own groceries, and he feels and he even has a mate of some sort. And this is very interesting. God is good, Michael. And I don't know where you fall in your opinion about this, because long ago we talked about developmental delay and homosexual. He's got a girlfriend who tried to become a boy for a while and decided she wouldn't go through with the transition, is intact physically, but she calls herself they, and he's cool with that. And they really have a good relationship.
Sweet.
It's like God picked these two oddballs and put them together. Only God could do that.
And who in hell has the right to say, I condemn thee? I mean, there's a strong faction in the country right now that thinks it's their right, but you'll notice they're the ones who pretend to be following Yeshua but don't have a clue about what he thought. So that's awesome. And if you would, when we get off, if you would text me his address, I would like to drop him a note. I have a thought for a small gift for him.
Oh, Michael, really? I don't even know his address, but I could get it.
Well, let's get it.
But he told me to get my female friend to back off of him, and the female friend
I know. That's going to be part of my gift to him.
This is getting mighty complicated. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it'll be simple. It'll be easy. It'll be fun.
Okay.
It'll be fun. It'll be an uplifting gift and message. Nothing of any consequence materially, but just a thought.
A thought. Okay. Well, that's wonderful that you have a thought. I'm just empty. I'm just waiting for the time when we can get connected again.
Awesome. Well, I think that I suspect that having gone from the isolation and the depression and rage that he had, going to actually doing service to humanity,
Yeah.
That's going to change his life. That's a big upgrade.
It is, and what happened?
And God, I think if God were talking to the couple as you're talking about them, he'd say, "And who told you were naked?" Like, what's that got to do with it?
Right. That's great. And there's a chance that job won't end when the vote's gotten out, because they do all kinds of nonprofit work, and they like him. He says, "I'm really good at this job," he says. So
that's awesome.
He's got himself. I know, it's like a miracle.
I'm excited for him. Yeah, it is. It is. Well, you have been the space for one, right? I mean, isn't that what you've been working for with him over the last 2 years, the first time he came up in conversation?
Of course, but I mean, he's not, it's very, talk about holding space, because I have no personal connection with him at all now.
Yeah, you've got one of the deepest connections the world could ever have. You just don't have a verbal one or external one right now. You got the genes, true. And you have the presence of love for him. So,
okay. All right, Michael. Well, gee whiz, it's almost 1:15 already, and I didn't even mean to come on the show. I just wanted a foot and arm report.
Well, great conversation. I like it.
Thanks.
I'll look forward to getting his address.
Thanks.
All right, blessings.
You too.
So, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody else in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
Bob is in the chat room, and I asked him how he was doing, and he said he's not getting much sleep. Laying down brings on some pain and comes and goes in waves. Getting less painful and less frequent. He thinks his CDS protocol is working. He's getting more interviews and opportunities to share his message. Joe was on, but he disappeared, so I don't know if he got busy, if he could call back in, but we're down to 16 minutes. So,
Bob,
one of the things we use is we grow lemon balm, and then we dry the leaves and make tea out of it every night, and it helps to relax.
Every night. And
helps you to sleep. We drink it every night. And I know you can buy lemon balm tea as well. Of course, we grow our own, but that you might want to try.
And I don't know whether you have Amazon down there or not, but we also came across a supplement made by a company called MAGTEIN, and it's magnesium L-threonate.
Yes, it has helped too.
Pardon me?
I said yes, and it has helped too.
Yeah. So L-THREONATE. So you might try ordering that. Those two things have made a significant difference in sleep and the ability to go back to sleep. And then maybe Aria will tutor us on going into pain and changing its temperature and its color and its shape and freeing ourselves of that energy. So we definitely hold the space for you for that.
I think, Aria, you're going to tell them how they can think about the pain and change color, see what color it is and change it? She's coming over. Use the example of your shin.
Like the whole thing?
Yeah, so she hurt her shin.
And what you do is just go inside of it and ask what color it is and see if you can change that color. And is it like, and same thing with the others. Is it big or is it small?
And what temperature it is?
Is it cold or is it hot?
Yeah. And you can use your mind and change it, and then it quits hurting?
Yeah, and before you know it, it quits, and just breathe.
Yeah, breathing is real important in it.
So what? I hadn't heard, Arya, what exactly happened with your shin. What was it that happened?
What colors? Tell Papa what colors it was?
I mean, did you bang it, or what happened?
Oh, so the other day, when I was getting up onto the seat, my leg hit the side of the seat.
Ouch.
And what
And
color
what
was
happened?
It to start with?
It was blue and red, and then it changed to purple.
But Nini told me like that. We did that when we were at the restaurant. But then Nini told me that you had something else happened to your knee. That's what I was thinking of.
And you hit it again?
Oh, did you hit it again?
You hit the same place? You kicked it with your foot accidentally?
No, my knee.
Oh, she hit her knee, yeah. And you did the same, you remembered to do the same thing?
My knee didn't hit it.
Okay. But,
my knee hit my shin.
Oh, her knee hit her shin. And it was the same place where she had hit it before. And so she did the same thing. You've got a superpower now, don't you? Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yay.
That's awesome. Good work, Ari Rain.
She's just grinning. She's going to come in and see you, I think.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So Michael's calling Joe to see if he can get back on for the last 10 minutes and share whatever it was. So anyway, we'll give them just a minute to get back in.
I just called Joe, and he's dialing back in.
Okay, awesome. We'll give him just a minute to pop up on the switchboard. And Arya's in there telling Papa all about it again. Awesome. Okay.
Oh, so that's a new piece to it.
What's that?
So what Arya just shared with me was that the other thing she did when she was healing her shin was she asked it, and this wasn't a question I suggested to her, she asked it if it was heavy or if it was light. And then were you able to shift it? Were you able to shift it from heavy to light or light to heavy, whichever it was?
Yeah, it started heavy, and then it changed light, and then it went light again.
So it went back and forth from heavy to light twice, and then gone? High five. All right.
Awesome. And Joe's with us now.
Hey.
Hey there, young man.
Hey.
Hey, Michael, the 70s, no, I'm sorry, the 80s called, they want their high five back. You can't, no. High fives, no. Michael. Michael.
I've been caught. What can I say? I'm in the another venue, and oh well.
Well, there you go. I crack myself up. I do. All right then. Hey, Jeanie, get better.
That's because you're such a funny guy?
Well, it's not easy. Yeah, I am possibly one of the finest human beings on the face of the earth. Many have said.
Well, we're so blessed that you called us. You give us words of wisdom. Let it be.
Here you go. Here's a good one. Wow, did I have a talk about a darkness or a heavy or light pain? I had this just this really gross feeling of being untrustworthy or not being trusted or trusting, and this is for me was triggered or moved into it with the activities that I've had around my father recently with his passing and the different plans that we've put together and so forth. And
right.
And then so just I guess it was Sunday or Saturday that I just was like, whoa. And then you had mentioned it earlier when I was listening, whereby the darkness, or, you know, the metaphoric darkness, or the opening that occurs, but brings something that's just, it's not real feel good, you know, it's you know, all those words of muddy and just whatever, you know. So on the other hand, it is one of those, and I think I've matured and or done enough work for myself that, okay, I'm going to walk into this and be with it, and just
walk in breathing.
Yeah. Always good advice.
It's the key to it all.
Oh,
and it sounds like a power person dynamic coming up.
Yes, very much so. I think just this
thought disorder implanted by God or by Dad.
Well, I think, you know, one of those things that, you know, to consume and digest on my own, and just, it was is a disorder, a dis-ease that, well, you didn't interpret that correctly, because I find myself thinking, you know, there's people out there with not very good intentions and or just plain and simple darkness or whatever
right,
evil and so forth, and they want to inflict that, but they'll certainly look the other way when they're, you know, doing it, and act like, who, me? It wasn't me. And okay,
right.
Fine.
Yep.
So there's that aspect of well, it wasn't my fault, and it's like, well, no, it wasn't. You're right. It's my misinterpretation of the situation. And I think there's there's a nice breath in that to say, I'll take responsibility now, and I'll walk into this darkness and or this mucky feeling of undigested or improperly digested thoughts and feelings that I have to integrate the correct or the more loving approach. Because the other thing too is, it's not, I don't mind saying it now, but you hear it a lot, and that is, oh, okay, I got it. Well, you know what? I may have got it 10, 15 years ago, but here it is again. Wow, here it is again. And so the intensity may not be the same because of my, and again, I'm kind of feel like I'm fading into this digestion process or this notion of understanding what the integration of love is in my life to shine such a light. But within that, you know, the yin and the yang of it is, in this duality that I'm in, welcome both of them, and welcome the darkness, and just pause and breathe into it, just be with it.
That's sweet. That's awesome. Nice piece of work.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the culmination of it all. To take every layer of assault, of thought disorder, of generational insanity, and recognize that if it's in us, we don't have to project it, but we can hold it, and simply allow it to dissolve. You know, that's the core of forgiveness. And what an opening! That's awesome.
Yeah, it's again for me just one of being willing to you know, you talk about sweetness, but it's when you're in it, it's not. You're throwing up.
No, that's for sure. You got to bring the sweetness with you.
Yeah, that's coming with you, because when you're in it, you're just metaphorically puking or whatever, or discharging unwanted energy. And that's the other thing that's really, for me, is this aspect of being an energy, being a receiver and an emitter of the energy, of my energy.
Exactly.
That's
Well, one of the things that you remind me of, and this has come up several times over the years in working with people, is that it's like the non-being mind that's convinced that it has to pass on its trauma always has another trauma-based message for, yeah, but, this really is true about you. You really are that way. And it's like that's been programmed in at so many levels, almost like a little cage that's been put around our minds to trap us in it, and to be able to breathe and soften in the space of every one of those messages, which oftentimes are really horrendously, traumatically installed in the mind. It takes great opening of the breath to be able to move that energy, to embrace it and move it on that level. To me, that's what we're really working to empower or for people to uncover the empowerment in themselves to be that. That's right. That's what it's all about. So awesome work. That's fabulous.
Yeah. So much different than positive and negative feelings. It transcends this idea that you're going to be, you got some mantra that you're going to say that can make this disappear. It hasn't been my experience. It's more of the
exactly.
I'm a little bit more, maybe because I'm a little bit more physical. I really feel like it's more of like some kind of elimination from the body, whether it's throwing up or whatever, and it is that letting go, forgiveness.
Right. Well, and that, that 3-day intensive opens a space for a whole other awareness on a physiological level, which is where those really energetic type patterns are held. So.
I think awesome. I think when the idea of patterns is very important, because my mind is really, since the intensive, I'm very much more aware of the service that my mind is providing. And I think that's wonderful. And the patterns, they may be geometric. They may be wonderful. Here's a wonderful pattern. Walking barefoot in the grass and enjoying the afternoon. I'm in this geometric pattern of happiness and joy and bliss. And then there's just a disgusting darkness and mucky, muddy water pattern. But it's a pattern, and it has to be. I have to say, that's mine. Hi. That doesn't work for me. I don't.
Yeah. Well, for me, in all the years all the years of developing this work, it's been interesting to watch, and the way that I originally have been trained in the naturopathic field and understanding the healing crisis, but not like you're talking about understand. Oh, now I understand it. And watching in my own structure, when I would handle a certain thing, how something, it might be subtle, it might be really major, something in my structure and the way it handled things would change. And so what I'd invite you to do from the moment where that, because that's a major shift in energy, there is some part of your body that's celebrating right now. There's some part of your body, the functioning of your so-called body or form, that is going to improve. If you're watching, you'll see, that symptom's now gone. And that's how we become cognizant of how we develop our diseases and how we free ourselves of our diseases.
Amen, amen, amen.
So if you think about it from that point of view, have you noticed anything anywhere? It might just be, a shift in emotion in a certain circumstance. It might be a change in the way a muscle functions. It might be anything, but if you watch carefully the subtle symptom changes. If you're doing your work, there's always an upgrade. There's always, oh, this is functioning a little better. Oh, yeah. I noticed that, gee, I can turn my neck a little farther. Something shifted there. Could be something as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't say, oh, here it is, like I have.
Well, keep an eye and let us know.
Yeah, yep, you got it.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Well, honored and delighted.
You.
Glad to be on the team. Glad to have you on mine, and
Amen.
have the best year yet of your